everybody, welcome back to the channel Off the Underside. We've got another very exciting guest tonight. He is an ex-Celtic player, an ex-Sunderland, Burnley, Sheffield Wednesday. I think this is fair to say you're a Sheffield Wednesday legend, Ross. So I think it's a real delight to have him on. It's Mr. Ross Wallace. How you doing, pal?
Oh, very good. Delighted to be on. Just have a little chat about my career. I'm pretty sure this will go pretty quick.
No, it's a real thrill
You
to
can
have
drag
you on,
it
mate.
out,
Like I
mate. You
say,
can drag it
I'm
out.
looking forward to this one. On this channel, mate, we like to go back to the very start. You grew up in Dundee. What's your earliest memories of playing football and realising you had the ability?
No, I think it's the usual stuff. I think just going out with I've got an older brother, so I went out to be him and my dad just playing, having a kick about. I think when I got to about 12 years old, I think I realised a few clubs come chopping the door. No, in Celtic, we're one of them. No, we were lucky enough that Celtic had like a satellite club up there, like a centre up in Dundee and Aberdeen. So we sort of started off there, which I go back now and it's not there anymore, which is a shame, really. So that's where I started. I was going there since I was like 12, training 2-3 times a week. Dundee when I was like 12 through 16 until I went full time. And then obviously on a Friday night we'd go and meet up with the Glasgow boys on a Friday night, and sort of have more like group training, with the rest of the boys.
See, growing up, who were your football heroes and how did they shape your early playing style?
Me, even though I was only 40 and I hardly even seen him playing, Maradona was my hero. My dad had tapes of him. We used to watch him every night. Used to just watch the way he moved. No, he was sort of my hero growing up. Ryan Giggs, I was a Man United fan growing up as well. Giggs was sort of another one, but Maradona was the one I used to watch pretty much every day.
Gigs for me as well, mate. We're similar ages, and I absolutely loved Ryan Giggs. I had all his stuff, DVDs, all that stuff, and it was just some Man United team, that one back in the day, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I was, and obviously I'll touch on it later on, but obviously I was quite fortunate, obviously, with that sort of team with Roy and sort of Yorkie and Coley, and I ended up playing with him later on down the line. So for me, as a Man United fan, that was a real moment for me.
Like you said, you came through the academy at Celtic in 2002. What year was it you actually made your debut?
I think it was 2002, 2003. I think it was Martin O'Neill. Yeah, I think it was that. I think it was that year. I was quite quickly streamlined into that. To be fair, it was quite tough. I think we went full time at 16. I think I spent a year. Sort of training with the under 18s, and obviously got myself, Craig Beattie, Big Davy Marshall. We kind of got moved up quite quickly after about 6 months to the 21s. Then a few months later, before you know it, we were training with the first team every day with Henrik and Big Sutty and those Petrov, Lennon, Lambert, sort of that Martin O'Neill era. At 16, getting chucked in the deep end to train with those boys every day. It was an eye opener, but enjoyable to be fair.
Aye, obviously they're amazing players and all that, but what was it like off the park, mate? Obviously, you're a Dundee boy, you came up here. I know that you were up here in digs and stuff like that. So how did you find moving up here, on a more permanent basis? Were you all right with that, or was it tough?
No, obviously to start off with, it was actually quite tough. Obviously, first move away from home, and you get a bit homesick and stuff like that. But to be fair, like I've mentioned on before, I was sort of the northern lads. We stayed in Glasgow over the weekend. We never really got to go home, so we sort of stayed around the stadium and stuff, and stayed around the players and helped Clarkey with the kit and stuff like that. That was a brilliant experience, and just talking to lads, that sort of hung around the change room a bit later and done some extra work, Lambo and stuff like that. They were brilliant just to have that interaction with those players. And it's changed days now. We used to change the toilets, clean the toilets, and do the dressing rooms, and the players don't really do that anymore.
We do speak a wee bit about that on here, mate. basically every player we spoke to said that they wish it was back again to that, because obviously that was a good grounding for you guys and that. Do you think that it would have been a good thing to can I introduce that again? Like cleaning players' boots and doing the basics around the club.
Yeah, I think the politics of football, HR and stuff's obviously got involved in stuff like that, and for me, it's vital. It just it's that relationship between first team and younger boys. Cleaning the boots. Just those little chats. In the corridor, and they asking you about your youth team games, and and you can ask them anything you want. No, 9 times out of 10, the first team lads, especially the ones obviously when I was coming through, that predominantly, they were hard on you, but when you had needed a bit of advice and stuff, 9 times out of 10 they were brilliant.
What do you remember about making your debut with Celtic under Martin O'Neill? Was it scary, or were you more buzzing to just get on the pitch?
No, I was I was buzzing. To be fair, I think at the time it was you needed 221s, or there was a rule that you needed so many academy lads on the bench. So it kind of worked in my favour, really. So when you were training during the week, you're almost fighting to get on the bench with all the other lads. You had to perform every day, and when you played for the youth team or the 21s, no, you had to be at it because what you're waiting on is if Celtic go 3-4 nothing up, which predominantly a lot of the time they did when Henrik was playing. No, Martin would just chuck you on for half an hour or 20 minutes, and that was your time to shine and your moment to impress. So just to get that 20 minutes, you were working the full week, battling to be the best player basically in training, so that Martin or Robbo or Stevie Wolford noticed you, and you get that little 20-minute cameo.
Obviously, you mentioned some of the players you played alongside there, like Henrik and stuff. But what I want to know is, obviously, you were a left winger, mate, and you're a young guy at that point. You're through in that team. Alan Thompson, was in the team at that point. How was your relationship with him? Was he a wee bit maybe kind of, threatened by you coming into the squad at all, or was he all right with you?
Nah, there was none of that. These boys, obviously the team just picked itself under Martin. These were experienced players. I was just a baby in football terms. So for me, I've just been there and picking up sort of anything, for these boys, and just how they trained, how they went about sort of their work daily. It's like a laugh and a joke. But when training starts like this, it's intense, and they're no shy and lift you in the air in training. So and training's so quick as well. The tempo of it. These boys, some of these boys were international players. So nah, I don't think there was any sort of threatened anything like that. I think that team sort of picked itself really.
What was Martin O'Neill like as a manager and a coach? Was he like arm round the shoulder, or was he a wee bit more boot up the arse, as they say?
Not really. He's more of a man manager. He sort of, as I've sort of went down the line, and I worked with Roy and Sean Dyche, people like that. They've all come for the Cloughie era, so it's kind of like it's more man managing rather than sort of that coaching style on the grass. So if I've sort of, as you've went down the years, you sort of get Martin was just like a man manager, and he trusted the players. He had good players, to go and produce. There was no real coaching day to day, anything like that. It was just the odd. Sometimes you get the curly finger when you need some fitness work, and you just pick a lamppost and tell you to, as quick as you can round the lamppost. So there was no like poles out and periodisation work and tactical and technical work that you see nowadays with sports science and all this stuff. It was there's that jacket over there, sprint round that jacket as quick as you can. That was his fitness work really. But in terms of Martin, he just trusted the players. Had Henrik, Sutton, Hartson, Petrov. The team picked itself. They're all experienced lads, and they just went out and won football matches.
Just some players to play around. Obviously, Petrov was amazing. All the players you mentioned amazing, but why talk to you about Henrik? Where does he rank in the players you've played alongside? Obviously, you've had a very good career, mate, down in England and stuff. But where does Henrik rank amongst the players?
Oh, Henrik was the best, absolutely, without a doubt. Just some of the stuff in training, you just knew, and like even all the other players, sort of the experienced boys, they knew Henrik. Henrik was the man. Really, the amount of time I think he obviously loved the football club, to stay as long as he did, because I'm pretty sure he would have had plenty of suitors. Obviously even the years before he went, but you could tell in training. There's one time he dinked Magnus Hedman like from a byline, and everybody just stood back and just clapped because it was like nobody else could do that. It's just little things. He was just, yeah, he was different class. You could tell he was. He should have been playing at the sort of the top end of the European football.
It's amazing how he actually had the career at Celtic he had, and then, at that age, you're thinking, well, it's never really going to happen for him, at that stage, at that point. Obviously, you think he maybe could have went down to England and had a decent career in that, but to go and win the Champions League and, Barcelona, Man United, and just, the guy was just insane, wasn't he?
Yeah, and listen, selfishly, I'm no bothered anyway because I got the privilege of training with him near enough every day as a young kid. And I got on the pitch with him, so I had that privilege. So selfishly, I wasn't that bothered. But I think for Henrik, I would have been good to see him to go and sort of, maybe have had extra years playing at that sort of elite top level. But Celtic's, it's an infectious football club. It's like I go back sometimes now and I get goosebumps going back just watching, and I just want to grab the players and just say, just think how lucky you are where you are right now, stepping onto that pitch. Because I would do anything to get back on that pitch again.
Well, after a couple of years,
match.
Yeah, apart from a charity match, yeah.
but proper. After a couple of years, Roy Keane came calling and signed you up to Sunderland. But I've heard a story about a high chair in Roy Keane. Can you explain a wee bit more about that?
No, I was just touching on because obviously everybody think Roy's very intense and he's on you and the demands but I was just when you see him now on the open goal and stuff, like he's got that humour. That's what he was like back then. He wasn't actually that intense. As long as you train properly and and you went about your work when it actually started. Like you like to laugh and a joke as much as anybody. So yeah, that story about obviously when I went to first meet him in Sunderland with my agent, and then obviously there's a chair missing. And obviously I had nowhere to sit around the table, and he obviously goes, "Oh, I'll get you a chair, Ross." And then he brings out the high chair, trying to lift me into the high chair. He's just cracking a joke, like that's just the way he was.
What was it like? What was it like? Leaving Celtic, was that a hard decision to go down to Sunderland at that point?
It was a hard decision because obviously I'd been there since I was 12, but I just thought I was playing left back a couple of times under Gordon, which I didn't really enjoy. I liked it at times, but no, it wasn't me. I was a winger, so I wanted to go back there and play as a winger, and that was the reason for leaving Celtic. And it was tough, but I think to get the opportunity with Sunderland, and obviously with Roy being the manager, and I think with Niall Quinn sort of had a takeover, I knew they were going to chuck a bit of money at it, so there was a chance of getting to the Premier League, which fortunately we did. But I knew it was going to soon as if Roy's going somewhere, he's going somewhere for a reason. He wants success, and I think he obviously knew the board were going to back him with decent players.
You mentioned Sunderland in the Premier League. I seen a wee stat the other day. I don't know if Corey and Davey know this. I'm sure you know it, Ross, that you're the first away player to score at the new Emirates for Arsenal, against Arsenal, sorry.
Yeah, I've heard that before, yeah, but I've never knew if that was true or no, but I'll take that anyway. We'll just say it's true.
It's true, man. I researched it. It's true, mate. It's first goal. First goal to the Emirates for an away club.
Did they win that?
Yeah.
No, I think we drew 2-2 actually that game. I think we done all right that game. Yeah.
No point getting 5-1 and claiming that.
So obviously Sunderland are a huge club, mate, and they've been through a wee bit of trouble in the last few years and that. Obviously they're back in the big time now. How was the transition? Obviously you were at a big club, but how do you sum up your time, your whole time at Sunderland basically?
It's quite successful, really. I've managed to make a Scotland debut when I played for the club. Got promoted to the Championship, played in the Premier League. So I think it was just for me, it was a huge success. And when I actually moved to Sunderland, when I got there, I I don't think it's got the same profile as Celtic, but in terms of the fan base, like and going to away grounds and it's packed out. No, it'll sell out every ticket. It'll sell out every away ground. No, that's how big a club they are. No, particularly in England. I wouldn't have really put them on a par with Celtic in terms of size, but it was very, very similar to what I'd grown up with. No, coming from Celtic to Sunderland, sort of the passion of the fans and the coming numbers and put that demand on you to win. So I'd heard that before. So in terms of that side of things, it was no, I quite enjoyed it.
How did you
Hey.
find playing in the Premier League? Did you notice a big kind of jump in standard wise when you were in, obviously from the Championship going up to the Premier League? Obviously, not straight away 'cause you scored that goal, but how was it in the Premier League? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was good. You could tell it's like when you go from Championship to the Premier League, it takes you a while to get used to the speed of it. It's the athleticism, and you're playing against players who are 6'5", but they can move like the wind and turn like the wind. You know what I mean? And the ball moves quicker as well, a tad quicker. You think you're getting near somebody, particularly the big boys. I remember Arsenal were notoriously for starting games fast. I remember playing in that game that I scored in, but for the first 50 minutes, didn't even see the ball. It was like ping pong. It was just ball was just flying about everywhere. The pace of it was ridiculous. But that's when you soon realise, right? This is you're playing with the elite boys here. This is elite stuff.
Just going back to your promotion in 2006, 2007, what made that squad as good as it was? Was it just Roy as the manager? Was it any certain players that you can kind of pinpoint like they were the key men? If you didn't have them, you would kind of be snookered.
I think Roy just went straight and got people that he knew he played with before, lads that he knew. He signed a lot of Irish lads, which the English boys give us a little bit of stick. Not when we turned up at Sunderland, but he signed like Liam Miller, who was at Celtic, and obviously went to Man United. Had a lot of the Irish connections, like Graham Kavanagh, played for Ireland. Ian Hart, obviously signed Dwight York. So he just went to who he's trusted, really. And unfortunately for us, it worked out quite well. And they had a nucleus of players there, you know.
Is
Sorry,
that
where you
not the
going?
season when Roy Keane took care of Sunderland and they were down the bottom of the league and they got promoted?
Yeah, I think we were 15th, 16th come the end of November. And then I think was the turn of the year, I think January, February, we never lost a game to the end of the season. So we just went on a run. We ended up signing Johnny Evans and Danny Simpson for Man United. Johnny Evans was different class. He just, as soon as he came in, it just connected the whole team, really. And obviously we signed Kevin Jones as well, who's was a real handful. So I think recruitment-wise, I think Roy got it right. Had relative success, really. But it's one of them. Once you don't win football matches and you're playing at a club that demands you to win, you end up losing your job.
Why do you think it's not really worked out for Roy as a manager? I mean, because obviously you're saying he was really good to work under and stuff, and then obviously he did have good success down there. But then obviously it doesn't quite work out for him at Sunderland in the long term. Goes to Ipswich, doesn't really work out again, and he's not been back since. So, what do you think the reason is for that? Can you pinpoint a reason for that, Jink?
I think Roy would admit himself. I think he just got frustrated and realised the level that he played at as like that wasn't a level that we were going to get at, as in the teams that he managed. No, he just needs to recognise that we're no Roy Keane or we're no David Beckham, we're no Ryan Giggs. So I think sort of he got frustrated. But I've always called for Roy to get back. I think he's got. You hear murmurs of him sort of having arguments with players and stuff like that. But I just think how he's mellowed. We see him on the overlap now. I think if he does get back in, I think he'd be a bit more relaxed on that, sort of being intense. I think he still demands standards in that, but I think in terms of like he's new to management. His first job at Sunderland, and then he was straight in at Ipswich again. So he's probably no process stuff that he would have changed and done better. But I think having a break now, I've always said, no, I'd like to see him come back and just to see if he would be a bit more relaxed, with the players and just maybe brought on a coaching staff who would look after the grass for him.
That's it. I mean, he's a passionate guy, and you see that at Ireland and stuff as well when he's there. And
Aye.
was he a good, like, obviously you mentioned man manager, but was he a good coach as well? Was he good on the park? Was he good taking a player in?
That's what I was saying about. He sort of like the managers you worked under at Cluffy era. It was like he's similar to Martin. Never really coached on the grass. Left it to Tony Loughlin, who ended up at Burnley with me, Ricky Sprasia, and no, just left it to sort of these guys. Never really coached, just man managed really. No, similar, like I say, I'll go back to Martin O'Neill, similar to Martin. Obviously, Sean Dyche, Keane, all came for the sort of same era. No, had the same principles, and no, and I always think you're a creature of habit and what you've been brought up with. And obviously, they've been brought up with Cloughy and Martin and stuff like that. So they're just going to sort of follow that sort of line of work because it's worked and it's been successful.
In 2008, you were loaned out to Preston. How did that come about? Were you to get just not getting enough game time, or?
No, I snapped my medial, so I done my knee just before the season finished, and then I come back. So I actually went on loan just to get some game time to get up to speed. I spoke to Alan Irvine. Alan Irvine was the manager at the time. He's a really good coach. Come and met me in the house, and when I went to Preston, I sort of just took off. It took me 4 or 5 weeks to get fit because I'd just come back training for my knee injury, and then to be fair, I loved my time at Preston. I absolutely loved it. I was just playing every week, just enjoying my football. There wasn't really that pressure from sort of a Celtic and Sunderland aspect with that demand from the fans. So you could actually just sit, concentrate and relax on just sort of improving and developing and winning football matches. And we got to the playoffs, I think, in the first season. We had relatively some success under Alan. But Alan Evans was a very good coach. He was, let's say, different to Roy. Sort of really on the grass coaching a lot.
Yeah, you made it permanent in 2009. But after that, you ended up going to Burnley after a season. Was that due to like a change in manager, or was that just you probably done enough?
No, that was I think Preston were struggling for money at the minute. I think Burnley. I think it was Darren Ferguson was the manager at the time. I think Burnley. I can't remember how much they offered some money, and Preston obviously initially I said, "Oh, I'm not leaving. I'm going to stay." And then obviously I got a phone call from the manager saying the owners basically saying you have to go because the club need the money. So that sort of just took it out of my hands, really. Unfortunately for me, it worked out perfect for me. So obviously I went on to Burnley, and I had a lot of success, really, at Burnley.
Right, definitely so.
Yeah, Burnley had a great time there, mate. What's your best memories of there? And what was the manager like at that point? Enjoy it?
Well, I initially went under Brian Laws. And to be fair, was obviously the Coyley era before that. With Graham Alexander and Big Stevie Thompson. There was an older sort of generation of lads who were from the Coyley era. So I think those lads loved Coyley, that group of players. So really, when Brian came in, I think he sort of kept those lads on. They're all great lads and good players, but I think those lads were a bit disappointed with Coyley leaving. So I think that was sort of spilled over into sort of Brian's era. And then obviously he lost his job quite quickly after that, and then Eddie Howe came in, and Eddie Howe was the first real manager and real coach that I had, where he was on the grass and he was controlling and really the tactical side of the game, and how he sort of ran training, which I'd never experienced that before. I'd sort of just more man managers rather than coaches who were hands-on on the grass. And Eddie was really, Gordon done a little bit on the grass, but Eddie was really intense on the grass. But for me, as I was a technical player, Eddie was brilliant for me.
Did you expect him to have the career that he has had from obviously Burnley, Bournemouth, and now the manager of Newcastle? Did you expect that from him?
I wasn't sure because Eddie obviously was always tipped to go on to big things. He was particularly in England. He had a very good reputation of what he's done at Bournemouth. So obviously the success, the second time he went back to Bournemouth, getting them to the Premier League, then you probably recognise like he's probably going at one of the big teams now. But obviously, just going back to when Eddie first, obviously when he first came in, his model of getting young players and the players that he signed. So I think Eddie deserves a lot of credit for what Dyche then took on and sort of developed it. He signed Kieran Trippier, Danny Ings, Charlie Austin, Ben Mee. So he signed all these players. He gave a good foundation for Dyche to come in sort of a year or two later, and then he sort of developed that even further.
Just touching on, you mentioned it earlier about Scotland and that. See, at this point in your career, were you thinking, maybe it's about time now I was getting a chance at Scotland? I mean, I personally think you should have been, mate. There was a transitional period through a lot of the years and that. So, how do you look back in your time there? Not being at Scotland, do you think that you should have had more caps, basically?
Yeah, definitely. I think there was a time in my career where I was actually with Sunderland when I was playing in the Premier League. I was playing quite regular. I always think with Scotland, for me, it's just about timing. I think once managers have got their squads and they're quite loyal to the players, which I understand and I get. But there was a couple of times where, particularly when I was at Sunderland playing, and obviously at Burnley, I was sort of playing week in, week out in the Premier League. I thought, right, I've got a chance of getting in the squad, but and then so it's one of them. It's the right place at the right time. Predominantly, managers will stick with their squads if they trust the lads, even though if they're not playing every week, they'll sort of stick to what they know. But yeah, a little bit gutted that I never got sort of more involvement with Scotland. But I'm fine with that.
The thing is, it's like I get the loyalty thing and that, right? But the thing is, it's like they should be picking players on form as well. I mean, like, there's only a handful. Well, I don't even know what it was like back then, but there's not that many international matches throughout a year and stuff. So they should be trying different players, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, instead of just sticking to players that played okay for them in a couple of games and that. I mean, it's always annoyed me, but.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think players that are in form, they should be the ones in the squad. If you're not playing every week, if you're not playing at all, then unfortunately, no, you're going to be left at the squad. I think that's the way it should be. But unfortunately, no, the game. If managers have sort of got a bias towards certain players or they trust certain players, they're going to stick with that. That's been like that for years, and to be honest with you, it's probably not going to change either.
You mentioned that you in Burnley you got promoted again. What do you think are the key ingredients to a promotion winning side?
Good players. Good players help.
Almost.
No, I think momentum's always one. And to be fair, all the times that I've got promoted 3 times, 4 times, I think, and it's been very just simplicity, very simple. We were just a basic 4-4-2 and a good team who run hard. No, and we managed to sign some decent players. That sort of we're quite. Eddie was very good, particularly at Sunderland. Signing like Kieran Trippier, Danny Ings, those lads developed so quickly. And you can never tell with younger lads how they're going to develop, but they sort of got, as soon as they got that game time and got a run of games, they were unplayable, and particularly in the Championship at that time, and they went on to be really successful in the Premier League. So it's just, I think, players, really, recruitment players, good players, getting them playing well, manage them really well.
2015, mate, you moved on to Sheffield Wednesday. I mentioned it earlier on how I would say you were a Sheffield Wednesday legend, and I already knew that, to be honest with you, but I announced you were coming on Facebook, and Sheffield Wednesday supporters were really delighted about this. Every one of them saying you are a legend and that you were great for the club. How do you look back on your time at Sheffield Wednesday, mate?
Yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it. Even though at the start, when I first signed there, it was Stuart Gray, and then he got sacked. I sort of signed the season before I agreed to sign. Then obviously Stuart Gray was the manager at the time. He got sacked, and then Carlos Carvajal was the manager. But I had already signed. So I was strange going in for the first few weeks. Carlos didn't have a clue who I was, no idea. So it's just so to start off with, you're trying to impress a manager who's never even seen you play before. But obviously, I worked it all right in the end. No, I was sort of a technical player. Carlos was similar to Eddie in his style, very hands-on on the grass, coaching. No, didn't want to launch it up the line every 2 minutes. No, wanted to sort of play. That suited me down to a T. That was the kind of type of player I was. So in the end, Carlos, I worked out brilliant. And, no, he was some character.
Would you say that was kind of the most comfortable you've been in your career at that club, or maybe you're just one of them?
No, probably sort of peaking at that time, and sort of my form was probably that's probably the best sort of I've played in that first year, second year. But in terms of like teams I played for, I've had pretty good success at sort of all the teams that I've played at. I've been quite fortunate, really. But Sheffield Wednesday was one. Let's talk about a sleeping giant. When you go to see the atmosphere there, it's the place is rocking. Particularly some of the playoff games that we played in was that was someplace. Lee Bullen was there as well, big bully. So I sort of knew Jordan Rhodes' dad, Andy Rhodes, was the goalkeeper coach. So I sort of knew him. So to settle in, they were brilliant. Especially big bully as well. He's a great big guy.
And obviously, I put on. Sorry, Corey, 2 seconds. I put on social media and that the goals you scored, mate. Like I say, some of them were absolutely phenomenal, man. 20, 25 yards out. Was that something that you practiced on a daily basis?
Yeah, I did. Sort of a dying art scoring for long distance now. That's the way the game's gone, But yeah, no, it was definitely something that I practiced. I was out there for half an hour after training all the time, just practicing technique, hitting the target, and so when it came off on a Saturday, it's and when you look back at the goals, I was quite lucky to a couple of lucky ones that dipped in the stanch, a couple, but no. Listen, when you practice it, it's about technique. I always say football's about muscle memory. Even if you play darts, you play snooker, you play it enough, you get good at it. And football's no different. Obviously, lads who athletically can move really better than others, I think that's generic. But I think in terms of sort of technique and stuff, it's the same as any sport. You play it enough, you're going to get better at it. It's just muscle memory.
I was just going to say, when I said to my friends and family that I was going to interview you, loads of people have asked me, what did it say in the note that you bumped? But people still need to know.
By the way, I was watching that earlier on, man. It's only a Scottish guy that does that, innit? That's no English haven't got that part, man.
Nah, they've no.
Again.
No, I says at the time, even at the time when I done it, I was like, what you like? I can't remember the time in the game. I think it was getting towards the end of the game. I was just like, got passed around about 3 or 4 people, and I'm just like, what you doing? Just stick the ball in the box. There's about 5 minutes to go, and you're getting beat. Yeah, and obviously when I came off the pitch, my phone just blew up right away. Just typical me, got caught.
It was just the reaction. You're giggling and everyone else is like, whoa, going crazy. Like, give me that notebook. Just a laugh.
I watched it live, man. I was pissing myself laughing.
Brilliant, honestly. Also, you spoke about the playoff games, and you played in the playoff final in 2016 against Hull. How gutting was that? Was that probably the lowest point in your career?
Yeah, I've always said sort of if we had played anybody bar Hull in that final, in the playoff final, then we probably would have got promoted. They were a good side. I think they had Andy Robertson left back, Snodgrass was playing, Huddleston, Diame. They had a Premier League team basically with the parachute payments, so they kept all their team that got relegated to the Premier League. So I always thought if there was one team that probably would have edged us, it probably would have been them, and obviously it sort of worked out that way.
Sorry, Corey.
I was just going to say, you also had a great relationship with the fans at Sheffield Wednesday. What made that bond so strong? Was that just you played 100% every game, or?
I think you just says it. Yeah, it's a working class club. It's the Steel City. They're working class. When they come, they want to see you running, fighting, tackling. and just putting the hard yards in. Like anybody fan goes to the game, they want to see their team go and make tackles, go and be really aggressive on the front foot, and have a go, and not be passive. And and that was not just me; that was just our team. No, we were just gung ho. To be fair, there was obviously Barry Bannon, Gary Hooper, Forestieri at the time. No, we only knew about going forward and pressing and playing sort of 100 mile an hour really football, and I think the fans took to that really.
I was
2018, mate, you moved.
Forestieri. He was a player.
Sorry, I lost you there. What was that?
He's asking about Forestieri, mate. How was he? Was he good to play with?
Fernando was good. Yeah, he was a character. Very relaxed in training. You talk about putting the hard yards in. He certainly never put the hard yards in, I'll tell you that. But Big Glenn Leuven's booted him up in the air a couple of times in training to get him going. But yeah, he's such a talent, such a maverick. We sort of knew once it come to a match day, no, he's got that sort of special. He could come up with something and win football matches for you. So you end up sort of letting him away with it. But yeah, Forestieri, he was a bit of a maverick, but such a talented player. Really good and a funny guy, funny character.
2018, mate, you left Sheffield Wednesday and moved on to Fleetwood. How did that move come about, and was it just at the end of the road at Sheffield Wednesday it was time to move on?
Well, I think, when I left Sheffield Wednesday, I was a bit gutted there because I went, they offered me a contract and then took it away because I'd done my knee again. And obviously, I'd been travelling from where I live in Preston to Sheffield. Like, I was travelling 2 hours there, 2 hours back. 3-4 times a week. So that sort of took its toll after a little while. So I wanted to get back over this neck of the woods. And obviously, a friend of mine, Barry Nicholson, who obviously used to play for Rangers, he was sort of a friend of mine that played for Preston. He was coaching at Fleetwood at the time, with Joey Barton was the manager. And he just asked me to come in, keep fit, do a bit of training, and I actually quite enjoyed it. And they was obviously offered me a 1 year deal, and we managed to get a deal over the line. So and it was good to be back home. I was sort of getting 32, 33, so I was getting a bit older in football terms.
We have to ask you about Joey there, mate. How was he to work under?
You know what? He was actually quite good at I think Joey was very similar to Roy in terms of, kind of got frustrated with the players. And yeah, I know that probably boiled over at times, but actually on the grass and his coaching and that, he was actually really good. But again, it's very similar to Roy. He probably got frustrated at sort of the level of the players and stuff like that. So, but in terms, he was always. I always take people at face value. He played for Rangers. I was a Celtic guy. But he was totally fine. He was always respectful of Celtic and honest and with his opinion and stuff like that. Which that's all you can ask, really.
I still a wee bit too honest with his opinions nowadays, I think.
Nah,
Yeah, I think
but I was
I think his coaching days are over.
Maybe
nah,
we'll
I'm getting back around.
I was going to ask you, we're known for your delivering your football IQ. Was that natural? Or did you have to work on that side of the game?
Like I said, I practice. I always say to young kids now, if you want to play at a decent level, particularly nowadays, as football's getting quicker, people are getting technically better, they're getting faster. So you need to be obsessed. If you want to play like it in a sort of championship or Premier League level, sort of the elite level, you need to be obsessed with football. You need a ball at your feet. You need to be practicing every day. So again, like I talk about, football's about, for me, it's muscle memory. No, and I loved the game. I was constantly playing football all the time. And obviously, once you get the coaching, if you get the right coaching, the right managers and coaching staff who will develop you and help you along the way, which I was very, very lucky to work with some good coaches and managers, to help me on my way. But like I said, I would say in terms of technique and stuff, I think it's muscle memory and it's practice.
Do you think that's missing nowadays with kids, like being obsessed with football? Because obviously you've got your Xboxes and your Netflix and stuff like that. Do you think that's missing nowadays? You don't really see kids kicking about in the street with just a ball.
Yeah, definitely. And I think everything you read on the news, everything's negative. Mums and dads don't want their kids going out the door now because everything's negative. You know, I used to be at the door every 2 minutes playing football. Yeah, you don't see it anymore. I do think like PlayStations, Xboxes,
Yeah.
sort of social media, I do think that plays a part. But in terms of coaching, I always think obviously when I was at Celtic, we only trained with 6 players in Dundee. And we should look across the other side of the pitch. And Dundee United would be training on the next pitch when I was like 14, 15, and they'd have 30 odd players. And it's like, how do the players get the repetition and get the
Yeah.
practice? You're getting a touch of the ball every 2, 3 minutes. So at Celtic, we only trained with 5, 6 players. So we were doing individual work 3 times a week. I was touching the ball 1,000 times in one training session, where these lads are only touching the ball 100, 200 times.
Mhm.
So I'm getting the better repetition. So who's going to develop and get better?
Aye.
It's an obvious answer, really.
Yeah, makes sense. 2020, you came up here to Scotland, mate, again, played a couple of games for St Mirren. What was that all about, mate? What was that move all about?
It was Jim, obviously Jim Goodwin. I knew Big Goody from Celtic. He was in he was in the reserve team. He was a little bit older than me. He used to kick lumps out of me every day in the 21s training. So I sort of
Wouldn't be
knew
like him.
Goody. Eh?
I was going to say, wouldn't be like him with his career that he had.
No, and that was it. Sort of, he got in contact with him. I think they had a few injuries at the time. Ended up playing centre midfield, and I loved it. I thought it's a fantastic club. Got their little facility, obviously the training ground, the new stadium. I think we managed to stay. I think we beat Hearts before COVID. So I think Hearts were bottom of the league and we were second bottom. I think it was a Friday night. Um, I think I set up the winner for John Obika. He scored the winner and we ended up jumping above, or staying above Hearts. And then I think COVID came and then Hearts got relegated. So I think if we got beat that game, we would have got relegated. That was my last match in football. That was my career done after that. COVID hit. But no, I loved my time at St Mirren. What a brilliant little club it is. No, really successful, passionate fans. No, it was really good. I was actually hoping I'd get an extension, maybe a year the following year, but obviously I never got the phone call for Goody.
Since retiring, you went on to do youth coaching at Burnley, am I right? For a wee while.
Yeah, that was it. And obviously when the COVID stuff lifted, obviously I'd done my B licence when I was like 21, 22 when I had my first kid. And so I'd already had my B licence, so I went back into there. I was lucky Sean Dyche was still the manager. And I went in and he just says to me, Ross, just grab a bag of balls, go down with the lads and go and practice coaching. Go and just put your time on the grass and practice. Because coaching's, as much as you know football and you've had good careers and stuff, coaching's different to playing. You've got the knowledge in that, but how you sort of are on the grass, coaching, there's an art to coaching. So he was brilliant. So I went in under 13s, 14s. I trained with the under 18s in the morning and then at the stage right through the night. So I'd arrive at 10 in the morning, get home at 10 at night. I'd just be coaching. For a year, 2 years, I was just coaching every single day. Any age group, 13, 14, right through to under 18s. So that was just a bit of advice that he gave me. Just says, grab a bag of balls, get some players and go down on the grass and just practice coaching. And I think that's sort of stood me in good stead, sort of putting those hard yards in.
Definitely.
Is management something you want to move on to at some point in your career? Obviously, you've had some great managers in your time, different kind of characters and that. Is that something you would like to do?
I've always wanted to go sort of into that development side, so under 18s, 21s, because I was thinking, jumping, particularly from like 16s, 18s, that bracket is just. So I think it just becomes a mindset and the mentality of now wanting to get into the first team. I think once you get that full-time contract, I think that sort of age, 16 to 18, it's a real tough stage because to make that transition up to the first team quite quickly. But the PD, yeah. So I always wanted to sort of help younger players sort of get through that and give them sort of that help. No, and that sort of it's that area, that grey area from sort of youth team to first team. But obviously, as the years have went on, I've done 21s. I've done a bit of first team. Then you start thinking, you sort of start changing your mindset a little bit, thinking I quite fancy having a stab at being a manager. But at the meantime, obviously, I went on done under 21s and 18s and sort of PDP stuff at Burnley, which I managed to work under. Sort of was my biggest influence coaching was Vincent Company and Craig Bellamy for me were unbelievable in terms of coaching, and I've never seen anything like it.
But I was just going to ask, what advice would you give young Scottish players heading down south for the first time?
My advice would be to stick at it, because I see a lot of younger players that come to England and they sort of have that sort of the same journey I like, where you're a little bit homesick and you end up just going back to what you know, and I see them all. They come to England for a year and then they end up going back to Scotland again. I just think, just for me, stick with it, trust your ability. You've got to absolutely trust yourself and just be obsessed and just practice and practice and be a good pro. Because, like I says, it's not the best players who make it. No, I've played with players in the youth team that were better than me, and no, these lads have they ended up not having careers. And I looked at other players who you think, oh, he's got no chance, and then they went on and had successful careers. So football's just about affecting football matches on a Saturday. Whether you can head the ball out the box, clear your lines, you can stick the ball in the back of the net. If you can affect a football match in some way, you'll have a career. But I always think you've got to have that sort of exceptional sort of talent or in your game, whether you're a finisher or you're a creator or you can just head the ball out the box. No, that's predominantly managers will take you on that.
I wanted to ask your thoughts on VAR. You know, are you a fan of it, or would you like to see it out again?
I think if it's sped up and it's quite quick and the decisions are done quite quick, like I'd be a fan of it. But when it goes on for 2, 3, 4 minutes, I think that's far too long. To be fair, I think in Scotland, obviously you see this more than me. I think in Scotland they are relatively quite quicker than England. To be fair, at the games that I've seen, you'll maybe say something different.
I was going to say that it feels like a lifetime. Because it's like you said, it's a good couple of minutes, and after it doesn't become clear and obvious, it can be. You're looking at it too many times, and I don't know. It kind of ruins the excitement as well. Like you can score last minute winner, but you're waiting 3 or 4 minutes before you can properly celebrate. I don't know. I'm probably in the same ballpark as you. Just kind of get it sped up and maybe it'll be more effective.
So I'll put this to you, right? Celtic last game of the season, the ball's just over the line, but gets disallowed, or the referee doesn't see it and VAR's not there. Would you be raging?
Of course I will.
100%.
Of course. Of course.
100%.
Like that. There's parts of VAR that and like goal line technology. Obviously, I think that's spot on. But it's just VAR. It just seems a bit. They're looking for an excuse to pull something back or take a goal away. That's where they're looking at all sorts of angles and stuff like that. I don't get it.
The one thing that frustrates, sort of like, annoys me with VAR is, it's when when they're going for a tackle, when you see it in real time. But if you when they slow the tackle
Aye.
down, and then you look and you see him, they've caught him on the ankle. But if you see it in real time, whether it was intentional, the referee knows if it's intentional or not. A fan could recognise if it was intentional. But as soon as you slow the action down and you pause it as he makes contact, I don't really like that side of it, because I just think there's a million of them, and as long
Felt
as the
that way.
intent's to go for the ball.
was like
I
that
mean,
with
I
me.
totally agree. But I'm just going to say I totally agree because, you know, the thing is that the idea of VAR is right. I mean, that example you just said about last minute is correct, man. But they need to just tweak it, didn't they? They need to, but it's still a relatively new thing. It's still a new concept. We're still, in football terms, it's still a baby. You know what I mean? It's still to develop. It's still to get better, and eventually, I think it will be spot on.
It's just taking its time, though, innit? That's the only bad thing about it. But
Yeah.
I was going to ask, do you still keep in touch with many of your old teammates? And if so, is there any wild dressing room stories that you're allowed to share with us?
Yeah, I've shared a few over I'll say different podcasts and stuff. Sheffield Wednesday one, I got in trouble a little bit. Fans weren't happy with the Carlos sort of one that I told about his glasses. I'm trying to think. Though the funniest time for me was Burnley. Was Stevie Thompson does one. He was a character. He done. We were travelling to Watford, and obviously Tom was an eccentric guy. He's a funny guy, a bit of a character, and he loves Star Wars. So he was singing the Star Wars theme tune as we left the hotel, and I think it was like 5-10 minute journey to the hotel to the stadium, like leaving for the game. And obviously, one of the lads says, "Oh, I bet you can't hum the Star Wars theme tune." And obviously, the manager was sitting behind him, so he was hummed it for 5-10 minutes, and then we turned the corner, and we got stuck in traffic for about 45 minutes for 50 minutes. And you know what Tom was like? He sang the Star Wars theme tune in different voices for 45 minutes.
Jesus, man.
And I was, I think if you go on YouTube, you actually see a little bit of it.
Aye.
Oh, but yeah, see, everybody was getting pissed off on the bus, particularly the manager. Yeah, so we got stuck in traffic for 45 minutes, and he was just humming the Star Wars theme tune really loud for 45 minutes. That was. If you go on YouTube, you'll find it somewhere.
Is it on there, isn't it?
I think it's on there somewhere.
I've got to definitely have a look at
Definitely have a look for that.
that.
Just a couple more questions, mate, before we finish up. I just wanted to ask, you know, over your career, you played with a lot of players, as we say. I'm assuming I know who's up front, but what's your five-a-side teammate of all the players you've played alongside?
Oh, five-a-side team. Well, Larson would obviously be one. I stick Barry Bannon in there. Thought Barry Bannon was an outstanding wee player. What a player!
Oh, he's brilliant, isn't he, man? Still
Yeah.
doing well, doesn't
He's from my neck of woods. He's from here.
Oh, is he?
Aye.
Go Bridge, isn't it?
Aye, Coatbridge, man. Well, just Coatbridge, roughly.
Yeah, and he would be unreal at five-a-sides. He is your five-a-side player. Nobody's getting near him.
I'm surprised
you know
he's
what?
not played for Celtic. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm surprised he's not played for Celtic. He's a Celtic fan as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he's obviously when I was growing up, I was a Dundee fan, and obviously as I came into the Celtic Academy, I become a sort of a fan of the football club. But I know Barry and his family, they are really diehard Celtic fans. Yeah, these we should try and even though Firm games are on, no, he losing his nut if I wasn't going the right way. But yeah, he's a Celtic. But Baz is a proper Celtic man. But yeah, definitely he'd be in my five-a-side team. Larson, Gary Hooper be another one. I think very underrated. I think he was. I always say to Hoops, like, and one guy that actually doesn't even like playing football. He'd rather be a golfer. Doesn't even like playing football. What a player! So underrated. He was one of the best players I played with. The 100%.
Probably the Celtic, I think.
Probably say. I thought Paul Lambert was outstanding. Lambo, I don't think he got. Well, I think he does get the credit, but I used to love watching him playing training with him. Left foot, right foot. You could tell he had that sort of European come back. He was technically like so sound with both feet. He could hit any pass you want, even finishing drills. Lambo like bending him in corners. I thought Lambo was a top player. So I'd probably go Lambo, Bannon, Larson.
What about goalie? Who's the best goalie you played with?
Goalkeeper, I think Artur Boric was tops. I know he's a bit of a crazy guy, but even like when he trains properly. He puts the work in on the grass. I know he's a bit of a madman, but he puts a shift in. He does his work. Constantly see him on his own, practicing his getting his technique and his dives and stuff. The way he trained, he was Arthur was a top keeper, to be fair.
It was when he was having a wee sneaky fag in the toilet.
A wee sneaky fag in the toilet. He whiskey and a fag in the toilet.
That's a pretty decent 5-a-side team, that one. I think that's not getting beat, man.
But I've noticed
I'd probably stick Big Bobo. I'd stick Big Bobo at the back. Bobo just crunching everybody.
He was a scary guy. He was a scary man.
Arthur Boric, Bobo Baldi, Barry Bannon, Gary Hooper, and Henrik Larsson. I mean, that's
No
up
bad.
there.
It's no bad. But I've noticed, Jamie, when you've asked this to a few people, nobody ever puts herself in that team. Nobody ever. Modest. Modest is.
Modest, I thought all players are modest, man. Even when we were talking earlier on about all these amazing goals you scored, he's like a lucky. That's no luck, mate, but that's absolutely.
Aye.
You know, I couldn't do that no matter how many times I'm playing football. I can hit the ball. But, aye, Ross, last question, mate. Do you know who the 5 players who played alongside the most are?
Oh.
And this is another thing Corey's saying about the 5-a-side thing. I'm really surprised. We asked quite a lot of players on this, and none of them ever know or whatever. I'd be checking transfer market on my stats and all
that. You've done your homework, eh? I need to go on that.
Aye.
Barry Bannon be one?
Barry Bannon is number 4, mate. 96 games with him.
Yeah, just that thing where I've played the most. Do I get a clue? Do I get any? Was it Sheffield Wednesday? Do I get a clue, or have I just guessed this?
Well, I could give you a clue, mate. One of them, the second one was at Burnley. Played a lot with him at Burnley. You mentioned him earlier.
Kieran Trippier?
Yep, he's number 2. One's a goalkeeper.
Kieran Westwood?
Nope. He's number 6 actually. He's another goalkeeper.
Tom Heaton?
Nope.
Oh, I wasn't be Craig Gordon.
108 games you played with this guy.
108 games. I should know this, shouldn't I?
Can't believe you've not got number 1 yet, man.
He was on the opposite end of the pitch. I'll let him away with that one.
Who was it again?
You want to know?
No, actually, don't tell me. Andy Lonergan.
Nah.
Scottish or English?
English.
Lee Grant?
That's the one, mate. Yeah.
So knew I'd get there in the end.
The number 1 is a centre mid.
Dean Marney.
That's the one. And one more to get in it. Number 5, centre back.
Michael Duff.
That's the one, mate. Well done.
I've done well there.
Yeah, you did, mate. You did. Ross, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, mate. Thank you very, very much for coming on. I know that you're a very busy man. In fact, sorry, one last question. Have you got any plans for anything immediate coming up or anything like that? You know, I know you're doing a bit of coaching and stuff, but what's the next plans that you can tell us?
No, obviously, well, I was doing the sort of academy at Burnley, and obviously I left to go and help Charlie Adam at Fleetwood, and obviously Charlie lost his job, so obviously he's had to leave. So then I'm just looking to get back in. A couple of things have popped up, but no, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, couple of months, something will be over the line.
Brilliant, mate. Really looking forward to seeing how your career goes. Wish you all the luck in the world, mate. Hope to see you managing one day, maybe even up here in Scotland, man. But all the best to you, Ross, and thank you very much, pal.
Brilliant. Thanks for that.
Cheers,
Thank
man.
you.
Cheers.
See ya.
Thank you.